Hello and welcome to a brand new webinar on the occasion of Women's Day. The title of the webinar is pretty relevant. It is Taking Charge of Financial Future. And here we're going to be discussing the importance of financial independence for women. Hi, I'm Udayan Ray, a founder of Fundu Money, and I'll be moderating this session with some of the country's brightest minds and CXOs related to personal finance. And I'm doing this on behalf of Open Magazine, which is the media venture of RP Sanjeev Goenka Group. And for this webinar, we have got a very distinguished panel. So I'll be reading out the names and their designation. And of course, they don't need an introduction from me. They're very eminent and accomplished professionals. But still, for formality, I would introduce you to the panel. We have Mrs. Anamika Roy Rashtravar. She's the Managing Director and CEO of IFCO Tokyo General Insurance Company. She's, of course, as we all know, IFCO Tokyo General Insurance Company is one of the prominent general insurance companies of India. And of course, Mrs. Rashtravar is a highly experienced and accomplished insurance professional with a couple of decades of experience. Then we have Lakshmi Iyer. She is the President and Chief Investment Officer, Debt and Head Products, Kotak Mahindra Asset Management Company. Most of us who read newspapers, magazines, and televisions would know that Lakshmi appears regularly on a whole range of topics for her insights and unique views of some of the matters. And nobody could be better than her being part of this panel. And then finally, we have Dilshad Bilimoria, certified financial planner and director, Dilzar Consultants, one of the top financial planners in the country. And Dilshad, of course, has been interacting with customers, people, guiding them on their financial goals and their financial future for more than 2 decades. So, as you can clearly see, they're highly accomplished professionals. It's a stellar panel we have. And yes, they also happen to be women. So who better than them to talk about some of the important issues? Now, what would we be discussing in this webinar? There are just three major things. First, our expert panelists are going to give you an elevator pitch as to why women should be involved in financial decision making. Obviously, it is not happening to the extent it should be. So they will give you some very compelling reasons why women should be involved more in financial decision making. And that is also is going to give you the reasons why you should be watching this and listening to it and reading about this, about the deliberations. And then we're going to talk about financial security, whether it's life insurance, whether it's health insurance, and how women can use those tools to protect themselves against financial vulnerabilities and risks. And finally, it's like in a cricket match where you, after putting the protective gear, when you're batting, you try to put up a good score, how to make your money grow, how women can do that for themselves and for their future requirements, their own and family requirements. So I think I've talked a lot, and it's the panelists who should be doing the talking. So let's start with the elevator pitch that I was talking about. So Mrs. Rashtravar, if somebody, if you were to find a couple of bright young women on an elevator and you were asked to give advice, it's probably unlikely, but if you were to give them advice as to why they should be involved in the true sense in the financial decision making for themselves and their families, what would those points be?
Thank you, Diane, for having me on this show. And the first thing I would tell a woman that it is always important to participate jointly in any financial decisions at home, because at time of need, one should be aware of what is available instead of running from pillar to post to fund any such exigencies. And also a joint ownership gets created. So you also know how to manage your money in the future.
Right. So, Lakshmi, coming to you, what would those points be, things that you would want to say to women, why they should be more involved. I mean, for people who are doing it, it seems like a given, but we know for a fact that there's lots of progress that needs to be made out there in our country. Women do manage finances, but why there should be a more a wider and deeper sort of involvement?
Sure. Hi, morning, Udayan. So the first analogy that I will give the lady or the woman is that which Michelin star chef you can think of, or which is the most prominent name that comes to your mind when we talk about chef or cook. And the answer, at least in top three, would definitely be all three of them would be males. Whether it's outside and inside India. So that's point number one. So cooking, which was considered a domain of women, is actually being dominated by male. Second question I would ask her is that when we talk about beauty pageants, again, we see men actually walking feet to feet, neck to neck with the woman. So there again, it's not a fiefdom of the female. And lastly, in sports, women are, whether it's in wrestling or in tennis or in badminton, everywhere women are making their mark. So I think the cliche things that, this is stereotype men role, this is stereotype women role, I think that's getting completely merged. And I gave you these 2-3 analogies just exactly to elucidate the point. And therefore, I believe that financial planning is agnostic. Here we have among us, apart from you, so I'll keep you aside for one moment, Dilshad, who does planning for everybody, and of course it's gender agnostic. Anamika, who's trying to, or will push why general insurance is necessary. Again, it's agnostic. And here I am managing money for lakhs of Indian citizens and offshore. Again, that's gender agnostic. So I think you have a troika of combination right here in this room trying to tell you why financial planning is gender agnostic. So the time to do that was yesterday.
Awesome. So Dilshad, you must be getting the ground level experience of what I just mentioned. There would be things in the mind and things physically there. So how do you go about getting the women in amongst your clients, the women family members in your clients' families to get involved, and why is it important for them to be involved in all the decision making?
Thank you for having me, Udayan, and to Open Media Network as well. And good morning to all of you. I think, to answer your first question about the elevator pitch, I think the most important reason why women need to be clear is they need to have financial independence. Being a financial advisor, and we have seen this even among our clients. So, for example, when we try and have, meetings with our clients on portfolio reviews or goal reviews, we always try and ensure that both the man and woman are present. And very often we realize that some of the most practical solutions and approaches to certain problems, when it comes to personal finances, are given by the women. Unfortunately, there is a kind of, I would say a fear sometimes among, women who are non-working women and like housewives, who feel that they might not ask the right questions, or who feel that they don't understand the topic of, the integrities. But there is no such thing as a wrong question, right? Any point in time, we are very happy to address and answer any questions when it comes. And I think most of the women have lent a lot of solutions and outputs.
Awesome. So now we have kind of warmed up, and I think we have given the viewers the reasons why women should be involved. And we have also given them a reason why they should be watching the rest of the deliberations. So let's get started on the real nuts and bolts. So let's talk about first, the analogy I was giving of batting in a cricket match, and you need to get padded up, you need to have protective gear so that you can move ahead with confidence, and you all are always in the game, you don't get injured. So let's first talk about protection. And let's first move on to health. And women, as we know, they have their specific health requirements as they age, like men do. And of course, they have their life expectancy is on an average more than men, and that is only going up, which is great news. But how can they be very well prepared? So let's get started, and I would then move on to Mrs. Rashtravar to ask her, can she suggest a blueprint of how they can go about managing their health risk and health expenses? After all, health expenses, one big hospitalization or one big health expense is all you need for you to get set back very badly. So, Mrs. Rashtravar, what would your blueprint be?
Yes. The first, I would say that being man or woman doesn't matter when you buy insurance specifically. So as you enter different phases of your life, the need of insurance changes. So to start with, as I have a grown-up daughter who's also working. So we tell her that first thing, life insurance, I'm sure Dilshad can talk better. I said it's important you take a term. Along with it, you can take a rider if you want, or you buy a separate standard health insurance. Having said that, my experience says that suddenly if we find a lot of accidents happening, a lot of critical illnesses are affecting young people, which we had a wrong notion that it would come later in life. It is not true. Unfortunately, in every organization we see, in our friend circle, we see young people getting affected and afflicted by heart diseases, which are incurable. So my suggestion is, for protection, have a standard floater scheme, as we call it, which is a single sum insured floating over the entire family. Or if you're single, you take a policy which is called an individual health protection. Along with it, you must pair it up with a critical illness cover. Critical illness cover is imperative these days as the numbers are rising and they don't cost much. And the last bit is, if you are working, God forbid, if there is something like a very long hospitalization, you will be out of leave, there'll be some kind of expenses that need to be incurred, which is not covered in standard health. So do pair it up with what we call, and the industry calls it, is a per day. There's something called cash that is given out. So there are different names, different companies use different names. So a combination of these three are very critical. And this can go on till some time. Do not reduce your sum insured at any stage when you feel that, oh, I'm healthy, it only happens to my neighbors, it doesn't happen to me. I think that's the fallacy involved in many middle class houses. And then later on, when, don't go too far, we had COVID cases. Many families suffered a lot. One COVID hospitalization was 3 times more than a normal hospitalization cost. So that, I think, is a big learning for us, a big awakening call for all of us to be appropriately covered. Now, many people ask us, I think I'll leave it for Dilshad. They say, what is an appropriate cover? Now, this appropriate cover I can structure. How much you should take should be something you should weigh on a hospitalization, normalization. Excuse me. What does that mean? How many days practically one is in the hospital? So having said this, I would also recommend a small kitty. You can call it escrow account for yourself, a small amount to be kept every month, maybe 500 rupees you can begin with, build it up, because there are many medical expenses as we grow old, which are not covered by any insurance policy. And that money is like a kitty which you can draw upon for long-term care facilities. You can care for ayahs that you require as we grow old. And 75, 78, people require help to change diapers, to do that. And no insurance policy in India is covering this as of today. Maybe tomorrow. I am a big fan of promoting a long-term care policy, but till now I have not succeeded. I don't know, there is no such policy here either, but I have seen abroad, they give you daycare facilities and things like that. But time is not on our side anymore, and we will have to create our own corpus. So two parts, one is insurance and one is some kind of a fund that is required to pay for expenses which are not being paid by any insurance company, like the diaper cost. Minimum cost of diapers today is 6,000 per month. There is an Aya cost, which is about 15,000 rupees. These costs come in right after you're 78, 80, you require some help. So there are one is when you are 25 and one is when you're 75. So the requirements fundamentally remain same, but additional cost will have to be incurred. So that's from my side.
Awesome. So, Dilshad, I'll be coming to Lakshmi on the emergency fund because this possibly we have got one of the best debt fund professionals right here in the room. But but Dilshad, from your experience of dealing with customers, clients, what would you like to add to what Mrs. Rashtravar just put in terms of actionables, things that can be done?
I think Ms. Anamika has summed up all the information very well. I would just like to add one very important point, being that typically employed people, and both women and men I'm talking about here, they normally say that, look, we are anyway covered by our employers. You know, why should we take an independent health cover or a life cover? And that is where they're making the biggest mistake. So, you know, we always encourage, you know, the women and men to take independent health covers and term covers, which are independent of employer provided, because you don't know how long you're going to be working with the, you don't know how long you know, what are the exclusions. And typically the employer provided health covers are term based, you know, like a group health cover. The exclusions in group health are much, much more. So when we are evaluating options, we normally suggest, you know, please take independent health covers. And like she rightly said, create a separate health corpus fund. So, and that should kick in typically when you start retirement, because that's when all the aging medical issues normally start. Another thing that we try and encourage people is that unlike term insurance, health insurance premiums increase every year. It when you're young, right? And, you know, that way you would also get the benefit of no claim bonus. You would not have issues of medical health that you would need to encounter when you're doing your medical tests, etc. So we try and, you know, bring in the important facilities like, you know, what is the no claim bonus? What are the pre-existing illnesses? What is the waiting period? What are their copay options? So we evaluate health insurance plans based on these parameters. And we always encourage, you know, couples to take independent health cover, you know, even though they are company covered.
Yes, Mr. Rashtravar. Yes.
As Dilshad said, this is a very common, you know, phenomena that is faced, that people who work think that baad mein dekhenge. To all the viewers and all those who are listening to us today, my humble submission is, even if you're employed, even if you don't take a base policy, please take a top-up cover or a critical illness and a hospital cash. It comes very, very handy when you leave a job or whether you in a transitioning phase. In between, you don't have a job and something happens. During COVID, you know, people, it was sad. People came to us, oh, मैंने renew नहीं किया, एक महीना का grace तो हम लोग देते ही हैं. So अभी हो जाएगा क्या, madam? कुछ तो कीजिए. You know, those things will not. People lost jobs and they didn't have an insurance policy. So this is something I will request all of you, especially my young friends, those who are working, especially those who are working in IT sector. They get very good packages from their employers. And, you know, in group policy, lots of things get covered. You may not be able to what we call port into an individual policy later in life with a lot of, you know, this pre-existing, as Dilshad pointed out, will kick in 4 years later, aapko milega. Start small, but start. Start when you are 25. Take a small policy of 1 lakh, 2 lakh, 3 lakh. As you can afford, grow it. And you will not have the pinch of taking it when you're 60 years old. So this is what I wanted to add to Dilshad. And this is very close to my heart. So I couldn't resist myself by butting in at the moment. Okay.
Absolutely. We are all dealing with issues which are close to our hearts. So Lakshmi, I'm just coming to you. But before that, I want to give I want to alert Dilshad on the question that I'm going to ask just after you are through. Dilshad, after I finish asking Lakshmi through with the next question, which is going to be about emergency funds, how short-term debt or liquid funds can be used, and you can build up an emergency fund for things which you cannot get in an insurance claim. What I want to ask you next, and you can mull over it, that this health cover that women, so suppose a woman has taken it, a woman typically goes through many life events. You might relocate, you might change your employment status, you might you were working full time, you might want to do temping, you want to set up your own business, then you maybe at some point you have to take care of your family, you've lost your spouse, etc. Now what kind of things have you observed? What are the things you can suggest? So maybe you can think about it. Even as I ask Lakshmi, how does one actually build up an emergency fund? I mean, one way is what I've seen people have currency under their mattress or in their drawers, or they'll park some ridiculous amounts in their savings account. What's a smart way? Coming from a mutual fund person, and we have, I think as a country, we have evolved a little bit. Are there smarter ways of doing this and having the right amount, and not having too much or not have too less?
Absolutely. I think the necessity for having an emergency fund is very underemphasized. There is a general tendency कि हमको तो कुछ नहीं हो सकता. And the last 12 months have actually hammer and tong proved it that सबको सब कुछ हो सकता है. So I think that's very, very critical for one to keep in mind. And unfortunately, emergency has a bad habit of cropping up whenever you least expect it. So therefore, this money or this kitty has to be in absolutely, I would say, it should be in your busy money. You can't expect every money of yours to be put to work. So if you want to give, a wing to your investments and say that every money, oh, ye to kitty hai, ye jab hoga tab hoga, let it start growing in the market, it doesn't work that way. What happened if you needed your money in, say, March 2020, and a good chunk of that money was in equities, which was never meant to be? Well, if it is today in March or in Feb 2021, then it's a different thing. But we all have the benefit of hindsight. So I think rule number one, your emergency fund should be in line with your lifestyle, in line with your liabilities, and in line with some exigencies, obviously, which none of us can predict. It could be 2 months, 3 months, 6 months of your current expenses. The rule varies. If there is no hard and fast rule, for you, it might be very different. For me, it might be very, very different. So that's number one, because it's a function of what kind of cash flows you have. Number two, never do the mistake of taking high-end duration risk or credit risk in this emergency fund, or for that matter, trying to, as I said, let it multiply through equities. I think that's the most, the biggest blasphemy that anybody can do is trying to achieve miracles out of an emergency fund, because otherwise the need is completely gone. So I think these are the 2 or 3 things that you need to keep in mind. Can you achieve it through mutual fund investment? The answer is yes. There are alternatives to traditional mode of parking or emergency fund, and obviously contrary to stashing it under your pillow or underneath your bed. This can be put to work in a very limited manner without really putting significant risk on that, which is the overnight category funds or the liquid funds. I don't see any third alternative, to be very honest, because as I said, this money has to be kept absolutely safe. And it's, as I said, it's trying to guard against a bad habit occurrence. So I think that's where I would say that keep it absolutely simple, keep it straightforward. Don't try to get adventurous with the money, because if you try to do that, then you might have adventure and the calamity all coming in together.
Absolutely. Dilshad, I think Lakshmi has nailed it, but would you want to drive it further by answering some of the points that I mentioned just before Lakshmi started?
Sure. So I think an fund is what we set out for all our financial plan and goal review clients, whether they ask for it or not. It is part of the planning exercise, and it is included in the first time planning. It is included in the annual goal reviews that we discuss with our clients. What we take as a benchmark is typically 4 to 6 months of one's expenses. If they're having loans, we try and add that as well, like committed, repayments or liability payments. And if they are a single working woman, we try and extend that emergency fund to 8 to 12 months. Further down, when it comes to individual, say single, women, now some of them might take a break to go on a vacation or like a sabbatical, or they might even want to start their own business. So for those kind of women, we typically plan the period. So we try and find out what is that period for which they will not be needing, they will not have a regular source of income or something to fall back on. And we try and plan as to what are the sources of inflow or cash flow that, she would receive. Similarly, for women who would like to go the family way and start a family and who would need to take a pregnancy break, such women also would be out of action typically for between 6 to 8 months, 9 months, or even a year. For such women, we try and include a separate emergency fund to take care of their regular, kind of committed repayments or cash flows or just their regular expenses. We also try and ensure that, if there is a woman who would want to, plan for her aged parents, very often we come across women who say, look, I'd like to do something for my parents. I'd like to put aside some money. So we try and create a separate corpus which would take care of medical exigencies, even for the parents. And all this, like Lakshmi rightly put, would go in very, very short tenure debt instruments. It would either be the overnight or the liquid or the ultra short category, depending obviously on the time horizon for which they are, having to have a contingency plan in place.
Thanks. So thanks a lot, Dilshad. So that's fairly comprehensive. We are still not through with the security bit yet, but in terms of what is left in the discussion is this, that there's still the risk to life, and when you are working, you're raising money for saving money for the future. What if there's a mishap and that whole earnings flow gets disrupted? That's what life insurance is for. And till you actually save enough and make your money grow, something which Lakshmi briefly touched, you require life insurance. And Dilshad, I'm afraid I need to come back to you again in terms of protection for threats to life. The financial implications of a loss of life. What are the things that you think women need to keep in mind? There's this whole, the whole narrative, popular narrative is, it's basically nudging, in terms of ads, it seems to be nudging the man to buy life insurance because he needs to be responsible, right? We have gone across so many ads, but that's a male view of the world, isn't it? How should a woman be viewing life insurance? Women are also working. Their families are also dependent on their income. They're contributing in a very major way to their family's progress across the country, across their income levels. What's your take? What would you suggest?
So I'll share what we do for two categories of, people. One is the working women who are employed. So what we do is a need-based analysis calculation on the term insurance, where we analyze, of course, what are their expenses, what are their, goals, what are their liabilities. And we also try and, so that will arrive at a lump sum insurance that is required. After that, we segregate basis the income contribution. So if the, the male is contributing 60% towards the household income and the woman is contributing 40% towards the household income, we try and divide the insurance requirement basis that. And then we try and reduce existing insurance cover that they might already have and existing assets, etc. So this is the method that we follow for couples who are jointly working in an organized sector. Typically for people who are businessmen, we always encourage them to take the MWP Act insurance benefits. Now, what does this mean? So basically, businessmen are having a lot of liabilities. To ensure that in case something happens to them, we try and ensure that when they buy an insurance term plan, they even attach the tag of a Married Women Property Act insurance benefit, so that they are protected against any creditors in the eventuality of their demise. Right, so the benefits of the term plan would go only to their spouse or to their children, or both as they deem fit. And as such, their family is protected, and there is segregation between their business income and their personal savings. So we try and ensure that for this category especially, there is an MWP kind of insurance taken. Of course, there are various other insurance plans like the Keyman insurance, etc. That would depend on a case-to-case basis as and when we come across the requirements.
Awesome. So, Mr. Rashtrapal, there's something I wanted to ask you. It's an element from Dilshad's answer. Would you be surprised if you were to know that somebody in a family, the male member, had bought insurance, and the lady of the house or the women don't know where it is kept? And if so, we are revisiting our first sort of topic. Now, what would you suggest? What are the practical things that one can do where this key information is shared, things like nominees and other things are kept in mind? What would you suggest?
See, from my experience, I'll tell you, we deal with many sections of people as we journey through our business. And there are people from very, very small towns. And there are people, when I say people, these are our partners, our intermediaries. You know what I have observed? When somebody passes away or meets with an accident, the wife is running pillar to post. She just does not know where is the commission coming from, what is the source of income, who are the clients of the So my personal advice is that, okay, suppose sometimes the man has bought something or the woman has bought something, it should be known to both the partners, or even three, even if you have grown up children, you can. One thing, one must be aware where these securities are kept, be it insurance, be it your bank account numbers, be it your checkbooks. Today, of course, nobody is using, but still the people in tier 2, 3 cities, if at all they're listening, they're still using some checks. Do they know? The worst is they have the money, they have the resources, but they don't know where it is. So my suggestion to everybody is be a partner in not only making decisions. After that, don't leave it. At least go through this whole journey till you know where the instrument is lying or how to access the instrument at least. And I will add one more point to all my viewers. As Dilshad has spoken about life, can I also tell you, the worst case is when you are disabled. And if you are a woman, whether you're contributing or not, there are illnesses that paralyze you completely from doing your daily chores. They are like your breast cancers, your uterine cancers, and many such cancers today are becoming very complex. So you become, or you tend to become, a burden on the family. So as much as there are specific women-related covers available, you must buy. And why I say PA, once you are dead, sorry to be pessimistic, the money actually goes to your family. Of course, you were supporting them. Maybe you had some income to contribute. They would enjoy now the benefit and carry on their life. What about you? If you have met with an accident, you lost your capacity to earn, you're doing some work which you are doing at home, please make sure you have enough personal accident policy, not just death, disability. Try and see, there are many companies who are giving you a double benefit for disability, because when you're disabled, you have to take care of your loss of income that you have, or you have to hire somebody to support you. That is one. Lifelong, you have actually lost something. You may pick up your threads after some time. But there is a period when you don't have any threads to wind. What do? So as much as you should know where your securities are, ensure that you as a woman are also protected. Of course, the man, be sure. And you must have this. It's a very, very cheap product. Do not forgo of it. And if you say this insurance is expensive, PA is not expensive, available in every company's website, available with your financial planners, how much PA to buy is typically, as I'll go back on the expenses you need, etc. Typically, it is 60 times of your monthly income is what a standard. You can buy 100 times. There are companies who will give it to you. And do not forgo of it. One of the simplest covers, which is very undersold, and when it comes handy, it is marvelous. Thank you, Udayan.
Awesome. So we're getting some really great insights, the importance of critical illness, the importance of personal accident. During certain, it's been statistically, people have got the information. It's been found in studies that during certain age groups, you're thrice as likely to get disabled than to die. So when you're young, the chances of you getting disabled are higher. So it could, and coming from Mrs. Rashtravar, it's you better pay attention, right? So let's get to Lakshmi. Lakshmi, now comes the exciting part. We have had a good opening, and now the time is to post a good total in cricketing terms. Now, Lakshmi, let me start, and this will probably give you the base to launch into what I'm hoping that you would do in this discussion now, that it's not unusual for women to save. We have had our mothers and all the ladies in our house, we have seen them. Come emergency, the cash or the money will come out from somewhere. It will come in. But that's possibly the whole point. That's where it ends up lying. Eventually, when large amounts are required, it's possibly the males who are coming into the picture. Can this whole picture be altered? I mean, if somebody's saving regularly or saving a decent amount, all that you need to do is to make it grow. Now, in terms of mentally, in terms of an approach, how can women do that? And where the money is not just lying in a savings account or under the mattress or in some bag or something like that, and it grows because eventually the lady will grow to be a grand old lady. Over to you, Lakshmi.
So I think that women are very good multitaskers. So they don the role of a daughter at birth, then they obviously take on the role of a spouse as a wife, then they don the role of a mother also at times, and of course they are also pursuing their career front. So in this entire thing, or assuming you're a homemaker in this particular case, you are working with certain monthly budgets. And therefore you say that, okay, I have this much, I have to expend this much, and therefore there is that element of savings. So in women, for example, bargaining comes very natural. So all this is an attempt to save. So, when you are doing all this, what you're doing is just you're letting your kitty, you got some kitty, you earn some, and then you kept some with you. The next level which one need to ponder about, which we are all doing in our daily lives, is, like in every movie, there is a villain. So even in our real life, there is actually a villain, and that villain is inflation. So if you have to decisively beat that inflation, merely keeping your savings in the tijori is not going to help. And the woman getting a kick out of that. And therefore, I joined the thread where I started off. In your step towards financial planning, you have to make that money grow. And paise genuinely paid pe nahi ugte. So you have to work hard to make it grow. And therefore, the concept of investing that savings into equities or, it is basically asset allocation. But if you want growth capital or if you want your money to grow, again, there is no hard and fast that, if you put in 100, it will become 200 in X amount of years. We all know it's market related, but it's very, very important to take that step now that, yes, I want this money to grow consistently. And for that growth, I'm willing to undertake the market volatility, and that first step is inevitable according to me, because most of them, what they say, they pat their shoulders saying that, I did a fantastic job, I had $100 and I did so much of expenditure and I've still managed to save the $10. My question is, what next? So I think that what next path is what leads you to that growth mode. And I keep talking about this in various client seminars, that if you want to change the spare parts of your vehicle, then fixed income will earn you reasonably that much. But if you aspire to upgrade your vehicle from, say, a hatchback to an SUV, then that accomplishment is possible more closely through an asset class called equity. So I think, therefore, it's very critical to imbibe these assets into your mainstream investments and not be wedded just to gold or real estate.
Lakshmi, where does gold figure in this whole scheme of things? I'm not going to say anything more. As an investment manager, it does play a role, doesn't it? I mean,
of course, it does play a role. So the way a term insurance is to your life, the same way gold is to your financial portfolio. So have gold as the last person standing in your portfolio, so that if the world comes to an end or something happens to your financial portfolio, gold is having the last laugh. So gold acts as that insurance to your financial portfolio. So what do? Do you really take insurance as an investment and say that gold is going to be all over? No, that's a completely, again, misnomer. So have gold, again, world over, there is no rule of the thumb, but anywhere between 5 to 15% as a tail-ended allocation to your financial portfolio brings about that suitability. So as I said, if financial assets go completely kaput, you have gold, because the world rushes towards gold when there is absolute trouble. So if you recall, when Brahmalok mein issue ho jata tha, all the, devas actually rush to the Troika, which is Brahma, Vishnu, and then they go to Mahesh. So I'm saying that is the potential that gold can achieve. But don't be under this misconception that because gold has had a spectacular innings in the past, that has to be a predominant part of your portfolio. Once that misnomer is kept aside, one will be slightly more judicious when he or she is allocating, in this case, when she is allocating gold as part of the portfolio. And let me also tell you, the amount of gold that we subconsciously own, you'll be surprised, could actually outpace the amount of financial investments that we have made all our lives. So I think, therefore, it's very, very important to not really get carried away when you are making investments in gold.
But Lakshmi, I think you might want to qualify the gold investment bit by saying that you're probably talking about financial investments in gold, not like buying bars, coins, and jewelry and getting an extra.
Now you have a paper form of ownership of gold. Of course, you can't wear it, but to wear gold, I think most of us have enough of that, whether you are in a B town or in a frontline town. So I am talking about gold as a complementing part, which could be through gold ETFs, gold deposit schemes, sovereign gold bonds, all of those as a mechanism, which is a complementing factor to your financial portfolio. And if you recall, I mentioned that subconsciously we own a lot of gold, and all that gold is still in the form of jewelry, coins, bars, etc. Every Akshaya Tritiya, I know that my mom still rushes to the jeweler. This Akshaya Tritiya she couldn't because there was a lockdown, but she tries to actually buy gold in the physical form. So that's any which ways their age old as part of our DNA.
So, Dilshad, I'll come to you with some difficult questions, which you must be encountering with your women clients or women in the family. So, somebody says, I've got this money I've saved, but I'm not going to, it's good enough if it lies in my savings bank account. I'm saving, that's fine. How do you deal with a person like that? Somebody says that, I've got lots of money. I've got like 10 fixed deposits. And I'm talking in terms of what Lakshmi had just mentioned. So I'm just trying to understand how you would persuade a client or a person, especially a woman, to alter course. Then there's this whole argument that, anything to do with stocks is risky. Tomorrow the market might go down, my money will go away and it'll vanish in thin air. Fourth, I don't earn much and I plan to take a break. And what if the market goes down and my money vanishes in thin air? So you get the drift, the kind of questions. You must be encountering them on and off. How do you deal with it? Because without getting to high growth, which Lakshmi is talking about, I don't think a lady will have enough for the retirement and the period that might be that might turn out to be longer than anybody had budgeted.
So I'll start with what Lakshmi ended, which was on the gold. We play a small mind game with our clients who have a huge allocation to gold in the form of jewelry. So in our discussions with them, we have clients sometimes who have almost 15-20 lakhs in pure jewelry as gold. And when we are sharing the annual plan with them, we tell them, we don't include that as part of, although they have shared that information with us, we don't include it as part of the total net worth calculation. And promptly the question comes, why haven't you included this, right? So we tell them, look, jewelry is a non-income generating asset. It is a depreciating, you might not even get the value if you try tomorrow to go back to your same jeweler. He will reduce making charges, extra other charges and deduct that amount, right? So at the end of the day, jewelry is not the right, or in the form of gold, is not the right form of investment asset, right? So you need to have, like you correctly said, gold ETFs or a sovereign gold bond today, which is one of the best, gold investment options which are running. Generally, and this is what I have seen for, with our women clients, is that generally when it comes to the risk-taking capacity, they are very risk averse. I sometimes feel that this is because of the multitasking role that Lakshmi, mentioned that. So generally, these kind of women are worried that what if tomorrow my working career will stop, or I need to take care of my aged parents, or I will have to travel to another city, and therefore whatever savings I have accumulated till now, please protect that for me and ensure that it's available at any point in time. Now, again, here, they might say that, give me the lowest, give me an instrument which gives me very high return with very low risk. That does not work, right? So this is, again, a very, very common ask. Everyone says, give me something that grows very well and, I'm not ready to take any risk. So I think explaining the various returns on various asset classes and what would be the, post-tax, post-inflation kind of returns on these various asset classes is the kind of informed decisions that women can take when it comes to investing their personal finances. And we try and do that on a regular basis. We do it with, with seminars, we do it with, in our joint meetings with them on an annual basis. So there we try and give them the financial literacy of why should you be investing in something like, equity, or why should you be investing in something which grows better. And interestingly, after that, we have had some, housewife women, although we have separately created a kind of retirement corpus jointly with, with the spouse, these women have come up to us and said, hey, look, I would like to set aside 500 a month and call it my own fund. And I think that's fantastic. It gives me so much, it's not the amount, it's that the point that they want to be in charge of their small earned monies, whatever it is. And they want to ensure that by the time that they are at the retirement stage, they will use that money for whatever they want. But at least they have taken that first step to say, look, I am ready. Can we do something small? And that is the first step of financial independence.
Awesome. So one thing that's striking me is that possibly women need to be told that growth investments are like Golgappas. You cannot do without the spice. If you want to enjoy it, you need the spices, which is the ups and downs. So we are at the final end of our discussion. So there are two more things I wanted to ask all of you, and maybe a quick round, two quick rounds. So it's a great thing that Dilshad, you mentioned that women are trying to create their own sort of corpus or own fund. But one of the biggest fears anybody who's aging is that they would run out of money, outlive their money, or they'll have to make a compromise in their living standards. How can women, whether they are working women or they are homemakers, or they're not working, they're working part-time, how can they ensure that they don't have to make a compromise in terms of their lifestyle? So are there one or two or three key things that they need to do? So let me start with you, Dilshad, then I'll come to Mr. Rashtravar and then Lakshmi.
I think it could start with things as simple as, understanding your family's finances and your own finances, right? So it could be, even if it's a housewife, having a clear-cut budget and having, it could just be writing down your expenses in the form of on pen and paper, right? So these are the items that I'm buying. This is what is the money that is given to me by my husband. So at least there is awareness created that I need to do something. I need to plan my expenses within this budget that is allocated to me. And of course, for working women, taking the step towards actually investing, right? So if like I said, if they have a joint kind of investment plan that we do, sometimes the woman would say that I'd like to also create a separate investment corpus just for a vacation that I'm planning, or just for creating a medical exigency, or just for going, starting my business, which I plan to start after 4 to 5 years, right? So I think simple steps towards financial literacy, understanding the decisions that people are taking in the family, being jointly part of that decision making, and also contributing, asking questions. These are, small steps that people could take towards their finances.
Mrs. Rashtravar, what would you like to add in terms of points? Something that could go along with what Dilshad has said?
Yes. I think Dilshad has already laid down a blueprint. I will only add to this that financial literacy doesn't come easy. And I think one of our panelists mentioned that women are risk averse. I completely agree, although it doesn't suit the job I do because my book is full of risks. That's different. But when it comes to personal finances, risk averse we are. And I think the first step is reading, by way of so-called digital revolution. Even I today do not understand much. What is this Mirai Asset Fund? Why was my SIP doing this? So I have to keep reading. So my one piece, a small advice to all my women friends is, when you don't understand, don't worry. We don't understand. So what do? We keep reading. Okay, what would it imply? Having a plan is very, very important. I think I have 2 young panelists with me, but I am old and soon to retire. And then I start definitely thinking that to live a current lifestyle, how much do I need? Do I have that money? How do I allocate my money to someone generating a fixed kind of income for my retirement times? Exigencies, do I have the correct insurances? And the last bit is, do I have something extra to go on a holiday? So basically, planning is very important at different stages of your life, because different stages demand different part and a pattern of expenditure. So this is my advice to everyone, including myself sometimes.
Well, Lakshmi, what would you say to that?
So all I would say, Udayan, is that women have demonstrated their own feat on various domains, as I said, either as a successful career woman or as a homemaker, as someone who went into the kitchen during lockdown. Not that I didn't know how to cook, but I chose not to cook because I had other better things to do. I knew that with rava, I can make rava idli, I can make rava upma, and I can make rava shira. Ingredients keep baking here and there. So I think it is important to have the right ingredient in your financial portfolio and not get disturbed. What will happen? Okay, I have a gas flame which is increased. Suddenly the gas cylinder has gone off. Suddenly inflation is low in the system. Suddenly inflation shoots up. So you need to have the right kind of ingredients in your financial portfolio to make retirement literally a cakewalk. And trust me, it's not impossible, but the need to do that or the thought for that is to do today. We are almost, I would say winter or whatever. And if any of you is a Gujarati, you will understand that a winter dish called undiyu. Now, undiyu is basically a concoction of at least 15, 17 different vegetables. So if a lady has to prepare that for a Sunday morning or a Sunday afternoon, imagine she starts preparing for it from Tuesday, Wednesday. And I know that because I have many Guju friends who actually prepare that and serve it to me. So if you can do a planning for a meal with so much of passion and with this kind of alacrity, I think it's equally important for you to get involved in that financial planning. And trust me, this entire journey of investments is not a nightmare. I will recall this movie, this movie called I'm a Bollywood freak, so please pardon and please live with my examples. But in this movie, Tumhari Sulu, Vidya Balan is the female protagonist, and her punchline always is, "Main kar sakti hai, I can do it." So, coming from Virar, taking a Western local, she comes to South Mumbai to fulfill her aspiration of, being a radio jockey. While that's real life, but I think what I'm trying to, express through that analogy is that अगर औरत मन बना लेना वो कुछ भी कर सकती है. And ultimately financial planning is not rocket science. Then all of us would have to be astrophysicists, which none of us are. So that's what I would say.
Awesome. So, this is the problem when you have such accomplished panelists. You just want to keep asking questions and keep bothering them whole day long. But we don't have whole day long, and they're incredibly busy and have other responsibilities. So, my promise to you, this is my final question. Now, Lakshmi, you said something very interesting. You said you can actually do it. Now, one of the great things which the last 12 months has done is there's a lot of embracing of the digital world that we are doing. This possibly we would have done it a year back. We would have probably done it through a physical event. Now we're doing it virtually. Now, there's a lot of information that's lying in the digital domain. There are lots of facilities, lots of things companies have done. Now, in terms of investments, it is obviously, since women are multitasking, they're doing 10 things in like 5 minutes or something like that. What would you suggest to women as a final piece of advice in terms of using this new trend where a lot is available? You can actually onboard, you can know about the products and things that you want to do, which Mrs. Rashtravad was talking about, and then onboard and then manage it. What would you say?
I think in the last 12 months, COVID, if I would have to give the Business Leader of the Year award, it will actually go to this pandemic called COVID, because it has taught each one of us, A, how to cut the flab, B, most importantly, how to do things that we never did. Today, whether it is Zoom or a Teams or a Google Meets or Blue Jeans, yes, there is something called Blue Jeans also, which I realized only when I did this at the behest of one of our clients. So we have acclimatized to the new normal, and this is going to be the way forward. So what would have probably hit you 5 years later has hit you today. And I think that is the biggest astra that the woman also can use. So if you believe that, I have to forgo my career because I have to sit at home, no, there is a flexi work from home plus, a hybrid mode of work option available. If you thought that only after attending in-person seminars and webinars, I can understand nuances about financial literacy and financial planning, no, it's all available, A, at the touch of a button on your handheld. Point number 2, it's all available in the virtual world. So I think it's very important that women try to equip themselves with the right kind of astra and march on in this financial journey. One word of caution I would like to advise all of them on this show is that, look, DIY or do it yourself is for the virtuoso. For somebody who is just trying to enter into the world of finance, it could be very intimidating. Mind you, I'm saying it could be. Even a swimming pool 6 feet deep can make you or give you the feeling that you're going to drown, even though you could be 6 feet because you don't know swimming. So that is where one needs to dig into the services of a financial advisor. We have Dilshad already here, but I am saying that these financial advisors actually help you navigate this maze with greater ease. So I think there is a combination, and all of these advisors also, as I said, are available online. They have their system. So I think it's a great opportunity for those who gave those genuine excuses, or it could be just can't allow to push it to the future. I would say time to act is now.
Right. Mrs. Rashtrabat, your take?
I think most of Indians that we would put in our context of today's discussion know how to do WhatsApp. That to begin with, to be friendly to a system or a machine or your mobile phones. So if you can do that, you can also access knowledge. And like me, who my children called me dyslexic in the use of media, dyslexic in the use of mobile phones, even I have learned today. I'm so sure we will learn, take small steps. Don't get worried. We may not be able to understand everything, but slowly, if you read, but the beauty is that everything is available today at your fingers. Because 5 years back, 6 years back, even as early as that, we had to depend on someone to get all information. And they may be right, they may be wrong. At least today, when you go to company websites, you will definitely get some meaningful information. But be aware of the WhatsApp so-called circulation. Sometimes they are not the right thing to believe. Sometimes they are good. But digital is the biggest tool today to equip yourself without a tutor as such. Decisions, I leave it to your choice, who you want to go to, but at least you will have the knowledge, the basic knowledge and the confidence along with it to allocate your resources and be a financially independent lady who can then have the confidence to lead others as well.
Awesome. So Dilshad, one is not doing and then suddenly getting confident that I can do it myself. But do you think that all the digital resources that are available, I'm talking credible, they can at least help you, people like you who are trying to help others, where people become aware and they're asking the right questions? So things that you would have had to spend time, say 3 or 4 sittings, people are getting to know, provided they're going to the right places and they're not getting educated at the WhatsApp University. So your final thoughts on this aspect of the journey to financial independence for women?
Right. So I think in this period, in the last 1 year, I've been able to reach out to a larger audience and set of clients through webinars and through Zoom sessions like this, which otherwise physically I would not be able to do if it's a one-to-one. And I think that has helped women also ask a lot more questions. And so my message would be to ask as many questions as possible, make mistakes. There's absolutely no problem in making mistakes. We learn the best from our mistakes, right? Always when there is a downfall, we always learn from that. So I would say ask questions, make mistakes, and attend workshops and seminars. And most importantly, get in touch with a financial advisor who is a fiduciary, who is going to work in your interest, right? So somebody who's going to be like, merely sell something is not working in your interest. But somebody who's going to evaluate the complete picture, who's going to tell you that these are the pros and cons of this investment. This is what you should be doing for the future. This is how you should be planning for your overall finances. I think that comprehensive kind of thing will happen. And that is people are moving towards as well. Everybody would like a comprehensive understanding of their finances. So women out there, I think you need to just take that first step, and ask the right question. Even if the questions are wrong, there's absolutely no problem, because that's when we learn the best.
Awesome. So, I mean,
Just one moment, since you are on this point of technology, I just recall a statement made by our chairman in one of our meetings. And, he said that digital or technology is like God. If you believe in God and there is God, then you have no problem. But if you don't believe in God and there is God, you are really in trouble. So I think it's high time, for those who are in the second camp, it's high time that they start improvising on the DQ, which is the digital quotient, which is as important as IQ and EQ.
Absolutely awesome. So if ladies are watching them, whether they're young or slightly older, they're always young. Now you have no real excuse for not doing some of the stuff and becoming more empowered and more financially independent. Remember, it's not just about you. When you do all the things which the experts in our panel mentioned, then you're actually helping your families and, of course, your communities and your country. Of course, that goes without saying. So it was wonderful. It was a privilege to moderate this panel. Just to recap, we had 3 eminent panelists. There was Mrs. Anamika Roy Rashtravar, Managing Director and CEO, IFFCO Tokyo General Insurance Company. There's Lakshmi Iyer, President and Chief Investment Officer, Debt and Head Products, Kotak Mahindra Asset Management Company. And of course, there was Dilshad Bilimoria, Certified Financial Planner and Director, Dilzar Consultants, one of the top financial planning firms in the country, and she's one of the top financial planners. Of course, she's also a woman, so that also makes her one of the top women financial planners. So terrific advice, terrific insights. I'm absolutely thrilled. Thank you so much, ladies, for sparing your time. I know you're extremely busy. I wanted to thank also Open Magazine, which is the media venture of RP Sanjeev Goenka Group. So you can follow this on all leading social media handles of Open Media. And thank you so much for sparing your time. And I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
जिंदगी के कई मौसम अनुभव किया मैंने। हालात बदले, लोग बदले, अगर कुछ नहीं बदला तो बाबूजी की सिखाई हुई एक बात, वो कहते थे जब नींव मजबूत हो तो फिर चाहे वक्त के उतार चढ़ाव कैसे भी हो, हम उनका डट कर सामना करने में सक्षम होंगे, बिल्कुल इस पेड़ की तरह। ऐसा ही एक अटूट रिश्ता जोड़ता है आपके साथ IDFC फर्स्ट बैंक। विश्वास, पारदर्शिता और सच्चाई का, क्योंकि इनको आपकी सफलता में अपनी जीत दिखती। मैं तो जुड़ चुका हूं इनके साथ, आप भी जुड़ जाइए ना। IDFC फर्स्ट बैंक, ऑलवेज यू फर्स्ट।